And we're live. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Banter Waight Boxing YouTube channel. I'm your host, Michael Waight, and joined with me today are two of my Waight brothers. Johan will be joining us shortly, but he's just putting the kids to bed. So if you'd like to introduce yourself, boys, Jim, you start, and then Joe, you go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for tuning in. Let's get to it, Mike.
Let's get into it. And today we're going to be talking mainly about Williams versus Eubank, the fight that happened on Saturday night. It's been a few days now since the fight happened. We've had some time to digest and get our thoughts on the whole fight. I'll start off with a little bit of a ramble about what I kind of thought about the fight, and then we'll get into some questions with these two. So for me, it was a bit of a strange fight. I didn't find it particularly entertaining, mainly because Eubank was so dominant so early on. So it kind of put the fight to bed quite early doors. It needed a bit of a miracle from Williams to kind of get back into the fight. And even though I thought Eubank did very well getting the knockdowns, I didn't think it was a particularly amazing performance. Didn't see a lot of improvements really since he's been under Roy Jones. I didn't really get to see him let his hands go, kind of what we've seen with Eubank before. When you've got someone hurt like that, you want to see him get him out of the ring, get Williams out of there when he's clearly hurt, but that didn't really happen. A few kind of dead rounds for me in the middle, but overall, I think it is a very good win for Eubank because, Williams fringe level, level kind of middleweight. So it's a good name for Eubank to have on the record. But as you can see, I've started off with kind of a bit of a negative chat. But going over to you, Joe, can you have an unimpressive performance when you win via unanimous decision and you score 4 knockdowns in a fight?
You can never say it's unimpressive because he did the job that he was there to do. I think where you can find criticism is that you don't see much improvement. I think that's where you can criticize him, but he's knocked the guy down 4 times, and Williams, he was tenacious. He was going after him. He didn't make it easy for him. He didn't give up. So with that being said, I was impressed. He'd done the job he needed to do. I didn't like the showboating in the last round. That wasn't very impressive. But no, you could, like you said, you can't really criticize him. Done the job. Maybe you could have got him out of there. You could say. I think
that's more what I'm kind of gearing at. Is I kind of feel, Eubank clearly was hurting him, had him rocked early on. For me, if you're going to call out the names like Triple G, not so much Saunders, but especially Triple G, like, big world title fights this late in your career, you should be putting him away when you've got him hurt, because that's what gets, the headlines. That's what gets the people calling to him. But maybe someone like, go ahead.
I think someone like Golovkin would dispatch Williams within the first round. If he's going down off a Eubank jab, then you're
imagine
right,
what a Golovkin jab would do to him, mate. It literally put him in a fucking coma, let alone knock him down. But I'll stay with you, Joe, on that kind of Triple G chat, all of that. The other fights, other potential fighters coming into it. Would they be looking at that performance and worrying? If you were Triple G or in Triple G's camp, should I say, would you be seeing that Eubank performance and going, "Oh, I'm not sure about that fight"?
I don't think you'd look at that and go, "Shit, he's a problem I need to worry about." I think if you're like Billy Joe Saunders or Golovkin, you probably lick your lips looking at that. He was a little bit, he could have been a bit tighter, had a bit more variation. I just don't think the level of opponent is enough to warrant someone sort of getting worried about him. I think Saunders quite fancies that second fight, and I think if the rematch does happen, I think the same outcome will probably take place.
And what do you make of because the thing that struck me is Eubank has never been a particularly great boxer, and that's not the end of the world because he's got other attributes which kind of make up for that in the scheme of things. He's very fast, very precise, and all of that. I personally don't feel like we saw those kind of old school attributes that we've seen before. But without getting into that, in terms of the boxing ability, is that going to be a worry for him going for a world title? Because Williams, good fighter, but not known for his boxing ability really either. He's a bit of a brawler, a bit of a come forward, good chin, but good serious heart, throwing the power shots. But in those middle rounds, when he got behind the jab, kind of walked him forward, Eubank couldn't deal with him. And I gave him a lot of those rounds just merely from outworking him. And so, is that going to be a worry for Eubank going for those world titles?
Definitely. I think the blueprint is there to beat him. It's a strong, solid jab. He's very one-dimensional, Eubank. Like you said, quick, fast, strong, and precise. There's not much else to him other than that. I think his IQ isn't strong enough to get in there and beat someone like Billy Joe or anything like that, or compete for a world title.
Well, we'll get on to some of the potential fights for Eubank in a little bit, because there's so many fights that have opened up for him now, which is kind of the more exciting thing about this kind of podcast. It's not just really that last fight, it's more the fights that has opened up to have. But Jim, going to you, it's 50-50 of Eubank. He's obviously done very well, but there's clearly some flaws in that performance. But looking at Liam Williams, what the fuck was up with Liam Williams that night? Because, Eubank's not known for his jab, and he knocked him down early doors with the jab. Was there something wrong with his punch resistance or something like that? Was he not at the races?
I have to say, it's probably one of the strangest boxing fights I have ever seen. I've never seen anything quite like it. Williams came out first round, looked really good for the first 2 minutes, and I thought, wow, we've got a real fight on our hands. And out of nowhere, just gets dropped by the jab. And then after the first 3 rounds, you think, this is gonna, I'm glad this wasn't pay-per-view, because this is going to be over very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I think Eubank got complacent and never really got back in his stride. And the 12th round was just bizarre.
Yeah.
He just ran away from him. And I just think, I supported Eubank the fight, but when someone's that dominant, you expect the sort of home ground to almost respect it. But the way he was behaving in the fight, I know there's been a lot of bad blood, but I think it was quite clear from that fight it was genuine. No one likes to see the showboating. No one likes to see the taunting. And to be fair to Eubank, I thought Williams could have easily been disqualified from that fight. The headlocks, the headbutts, evident for me. I think it's very fortunate. I think probably because the referee was quite conscious and caused a riot if he got disqualified. He didn't. I don't think the fight covered either fighter in particular. Normally when you have a war, it sort of enhances the reputation of both fighters. I really think it's done the opposite for Williams and Eubank. I think it confirmed what we all it confirmed what we all suspected. Eubank is the superior fighter. I think most of us on the pod last week predicted that. But the manner of the victory it left a lot to be desired, in my opinion. I just think Eubank should have put him away early and put this to bed. The showboating, the gloating, and then Williams with the head. To be fair, Williams came on very well in the middle few and towards the end of the fight. But I didn't like his tactics of trying to rough him up. I think it didn't work. And then I just didn't like the Eubank, the gloating, the taunt. I've never seen a fighter talk that much in a fight before. Never seen it. If he had spent the energy on trying to taunt Williams and knocking him out,
and dancing around the ring,
in 5 rounds, in my humble view.
Well, just on that, we've got another person entering the pod, and it's Yoan. Let's see if we can get him in right now. He's just been I'm just admitting him to the chat. Yoan, you can come off mute. Are you there? After Yoan,
you can keep the camera off. No one can see your face.
Well, Jesus Christ. It looks like he's just come out of a cave. We can't hear you just yet, Yoan.
Oh, son of a bitch.
I love all the boxing memorabilia in the background. I love all the boxing memorabilia in the background, the flamingos.
Yeah, I told you to stop those fucking out. We're supposed to look hard on the podcast.
Those pictures in the background are hand drawn by Mike Tyson. Just so everyone knows.
I ain't even a fucking move for this. What I can see it now. I didn't even realize that was in the background.
Mike Tyson owns that flamingo. Actually, doesn't he have a little his bird?
I think he ate it. Or smoked it. He smoked it.
On one of his podcasts.
I think that's a fucking reef. It's a rag reef, mate. It's a bit embarrassing. It's been a long day. It's been a long day.
Anyway, yeah, we've just been talking about we're on the Chris Eubank, Liam Williams fight, obviously. And Jimmy was making some good points there, actually. He was talking about how strange the fight kind of was. Like, in terms of you had the first couple of rounds, Eubank really having him hurt.
I gotta take that reef down, man. I can't even get it. I can't even put it. This ain't even my house. Anyway.
We were talking about how strange the fight was, and the first couple of rounds, Eubank having Williams hurt so bad, thinking that the fight was going to be over in 4 rounds, suddenly switches up. Williams is almost winning on points, and then you've got these weird last 3 rounds where Eubank's like street dancing, showboating, but nothing to showboat about. Like Roy Jones Jr. did that because he was knocking fuckers out and making people look like an idiot in the ring. But it was just a very strange fight. What do you think of that?
Well, I just think you just summed that up perfectly. I honestly don't even think there's anything I can add to that, because the way that you described it is exactly what happened. There's no greater insight into what you've just said. That's it. It was weird.
I don't know why I added you to the pod.
I'm bringing value tonight.
And the other thing we were talking about is the punch resistance from Williams. People talk about that in boxing a lot. It can go in a night. Do you think that Andrade fight, he took a lot of damage in that? Do you think that had an influence? Because early on he was getting hurt badly.
Yeah. It's something people talk about a lot. I think if you've not been a fighter, it's really hard to evaluate that and to understand whether that's a real thing or just something that people have attached to what they've seen in fighters. Fighters talk about it. It must be a thing, and it definitely looked like he had in the first 4 rounds. That was first 4 rounds, wasn't it? Where it looked like he had serious issues with taking those punches. So yeah, it would seem that way. But it seems doesn't feel very scientific to look at it that way, but
but I'm the same as you. I don't know from experience, but I've heard a lot of boxers say it, and it does kind of seem to be the case.
I guess the thing is they say a lot of stuff that then gets proved, like everyone agrees with, and it goes on for ages, and then it gets proven wrong. And the most recent example would be Usyk and Usyk's size, and this idea that a more skilled, smaller boxer will always lose to a bigger, decent boxer. And in the Usyk AJ example, AJ is more than a decent boxer. So I think that kind of boxing myth, if you can call it a myth, was kind of disproved. So I'm always a little bit cautious.
Do you think that's more pertinent in the lower weight categories than at heavyweight? Do you think when you get to heavyweight, it's slightly different? Whereas if you're at welterweight, the size makes a bit more of a difference. I've certainly seen that.
I've never understood the impact on the size difference on someone's head, right? So you see the lower weight divisions taking a lot of punishment, a lot of head shots, a lot of body shots, and you see one impact. And then with the heavyweights, I've always wondered whether, because they all tend to be quite thick, and you think, are their skulls actually thicker? And can they actually take more abuse? Because they definitely take. If you think about even the kinds of shots that the head shots that they take, it does leave you confused as to the impact of that on them. Yeah, I don't know. I ain't got an answer for it.
No, fair enough. Well,
I can't even remember what the question was.
Yeah, I mean, this seems to happen a lot on the podcast, but that's fine. We'll roll with it. Somehow, Johan gets in the line about Usyk being smaller than AJ in every podcast.
Every time.
I need to fucking tell you, size
does matter, Johan. Size does matter. Listen to your wife.
Every time you speak, our £100 million Spotify deal just drifts slowly further away.
Did I tell you that COVID's a fucking joke?
Yeah, really. That is, okay. Right. Any kind of sponsorship is fucked now. Cheers, Johan. Anyway, let's move on.
AJ lost to Usyk because he's double jab, mate. That's the simple truth.
Not because of the double jab of Usyk, because he was.
I was playing there. I was playing with language there, Mike.
Very good.
I like
it
too. I prepared it in a little notebook.
Yeah. Well, let's move on. Let's get on to looking at the potential fights Eubank can have now, because as I was saying earlier, the fight itself was, I would say a bit of a letdown. But what it's kind of opened up is very exciting because there's so many big names, and I'm going to run out with a few and put them on each of you, and kind of let's all have a little chat, kind of maybe a bit of prediction about what would happen in the fight, but also if you think the fight's likely to happen, etc. So, Johan, let's start with you. The big name we've been hearing a lot is Golovkin. Now, first of all, off the bat, if that fight was to happen, how's that going?
It's going Golovkin's way. Even at his advanced age, I think I always see that uppercut that he took and a little nod of the head. He's unstoppable. He's unstoppable. He's still a mean machine. He's bad. He needs more fights. I want to see more action with him involved. I think it's a disappointment that he hasn't been busier and in fights as big as or comparable to the Canelo fight. We deserve to see more of that. He's a perfect kind of like a Rocky, either hero or villain. He could play either role, but that kind of just tough that we all want to see.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But I think Golovkin's
and if you just take your mic a little bit away from your mouth, just because it's getting I can hear the put every time you talk. No, it's true. I think I've got to side with you. I don't know if you two agree. I think if that fight was to happen, especially after seeing that last performance, I think Golovkin, what we saw in the Williams fight is not necessarily Williams outboxing Eubank a lot of it, but just outworking him, just doing more to nick those kind of middle rounds.
You say as well that's one of the things that you would have thought Eubank would have the advantage where he will outwork another fighter. That his work rate, at least as I remember it in previous fights, was pretty high,
which seems to be something that's changed since he's kind of been with Roy Jones Jr. I thought the fight was quite similar to when he fought Marcus Morrison. I don't know if you guys saw that fight. But again, Eubank was, I think it was 2 fights ago, I was saying Eubank had him hurt early and then just sat off him. Went to 12 rounds. And it was very weird. And he claimed at the end, I wanted to get rounds under my belt. But I was like, this is a British level fighter. Put him out, get people on their feet. So I thought it was very similar, the Williams fight to that. And I just think with Golovkin, I think he outworks him and he ain't getting knocked out by no Eubank. That's not happening.
I'm hoping that you're going to ask one of the lads that you're going to throw into the mix of Savannah Marshall in this as well, about his chances against her, who I think is probably... Oh, they don't call it the GOAT, do they? They call it the GWAT or something. The GWAT?
Whoa, yeah.
GWOAT. She's the GWOAT, mate. Love it a bit. Fancy her like crazy. Really disappointed to hear that I think she's engaged or something. Very disappointed.
What about you two? Have you got anything to lay in with the Golovkin fight? Did you see anything different?
No. No, I don't think anyone in their right mind would back Eubank against Golovkin. It'd be a good fight, but I think Eubank wants a big name now. He wants the marquee fight. He wants the, what Khan had with Canelo, what Brook had with Golovkin. He wants that, the fight to break him, but also make him a lot of money.
I just see Amir Khan flies like a bird, like it's like small body. That's one of the best knockouts of all time.
No, yeah, that is
quite sickening.
I think it's sickening. It's actually sickening. They should ban boxing based on that knockout alone.
That is like putting in a full-grown man with a toddler. That is what it was like. It literally.
I'd do it. I'd pay to see that.
There are places you can, and there are places you can. Go. Well, we've spoken about Golovkin. I'm not also sure really that fight is going to happen next because Golovkin is tied up with Murata, I think it is. They're meant to be fighting and it's got postponed because of COVID. Also as well, I think Golovkin's got one eye on that Canelo trilogy. And I think Canelo hasn't really got many places to go right now. So I could see that happening. But Joe, another name we could have is one we've spoken about before is Billy Joe Saunders. What do you make of that fight?
Yeah, it's the perfect step back for Billy Joe. And I guess it could be a bit of an Avenger for Eubank. It's not, again, though, that's not what, I think Jimmy sort of said it. It's not really what Eubank is after. It'd be a good payday, but it's not a mega fight. He's already fought him. It won't do too much for his career, I don't think. I think Billy Joe's, like I said, sort of past his prime. He had that big shot with Canelo, but I'd enjoy watching it. I would enjoy watching it.
Yeah, I kind of get what you're saying. I think for Billy Joe, it's the perfect fight because he's probably quite confident he could do well in it. It's a big money fight, which I think is what Billy Joe's looking for now. Is, you know, he's got his world titles, he's done all of that. He's kind of just looking to bring in that moolah and, you know, end on a high. But you're saying, you know, Jimmy's saying not Golovkin, and you're saying this isn't really the marquee fight. But I don't think there's any other fight really out there, you know, in terms of.
The problem Eubanks got is he's a victim of his success in that people want to fight you when you're a world title holder. They don't want to fight you when you're a really good fighter without any belts. So, you know, you're going to get called out by the Conor Benns because why would Golovkin or Canelo or, you know, even Billy Joe want to fight him? They're like, you know, the reality is
but Jim's always, and he's probably right, but Jim, you're always viewing it as a business. And I know, like, I'm a bit of a fool and like I sit like a punter, but I'm just like, but surely they just want to fight. They just want to fight. Like, there's the kid over there in the corner acting like he's the baddest man on the planet, and you know that you're the baddest man on the planet. Surely you want to get it on. Ain't about money,
I don't
mate.
think that fight happens. Billy Joe might take that fight when he's run out of money in 4 years' time, but he's not.
4 years.
Yeah, he'll spend it.
Give him a couple of months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of a business perspective, I thought it would be a good move from Billy Joe because that's the biggest money fight he can make now that he's fought.
It's all about the American audience, though, isn't it? You've got to sell the pay-per-views in America. That's where the real
American audience.
But he's not going to get him. I could see him fighting Andre. I'd pay to watch that. But I don't think
Eubank or
Billy Joe. But I don't think he's going to get himself up for it. He's had his big shot.
Andre is, you know, he's a difficult fight. He's a tricky fighter. He's not.
Because you've got people like Caleb Plant as well, you know. But again, it's my money. If Billy Joe and Eubank fought today, my money would be on Eubank. My money would
really.
I think he, you know, regardless of all the criticisms I mentioned earlier, I think with Roy Jones Jr. in his corner, I think it'd be
helping him fight.
Yeah,
or getting in the ring. But all right, no, let's stay with that because fair enough. I like that you've taken that stance. But after what we just said about, you know, seeing in that fight with Williams, seeing how effective Williams' jab was against Eubank, seeing him against, you know, Williams not even a purebred boxer. How can you see that him get dominated in those rounds with the jab, and then think Billy Joe Saunders wouldn't do the same to Eubank?
Yeah. Well, I think if Eubank threw a punch in the last 6 rounds, then it would have been a different story. But he didn't throw any punches.
Yeah.
You know, he spent half the fight talking to him. So I think if he actually focused less on the trash talk and more on throwing punches, I think Liam Williams would probably be in a coma. But he's not. I just hasten to add.
Yeah.
You know, I think, my view on that fight is Eubank thought he was going to have a far tougher night, and he knocked him down with 3 jabs and thought, this is a fucking piss. Yeah. I am just going to embarrass him. I'm going to talk to him. I'm going to run away from him. You know, I'm not even going to get involved, which I think is the wrong move. I don't agree with that strategy. I think, I think.
Do you think that was the advice from his corner?
Oh, look, Roy Jones Jr., look, he's got a vision. He wants to make it. Roy Jones Jr. has been brought in for one reason: make that man a world champion. You've won the fight in the first 4 rounds, mate. You're not coming back from them 10-8 rounds. So just have fun, you know, just stay out of range, you know. All Eubank was looking to do that whole fight in those last 6 rounds was counter punch. And he barely threw one. But he was looking to bring him in and just hit him with the counter. And to be fair,
do you think then that was like a way of him developing an aspect of it, having the opportunity, the breathing space to try and develop an aspect of his game that he's not developed under pressure or been able to develop under pressure before?
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, because if you listen to Eubank post-fight, very similar to AJ, one of the criticisms that has really got under his skin is that he's not a boxer. He can't box.
Sure.
And that's what he said, post-fight, he was like, I wanted to prove to all of those critics who say I can't box, I can box. That's why he did the alley shuffle. That's why his hands were down by his waist. There's no guard up the whole fight. But I think
he proved the complete opposite. He showed everyone, I still can't box. That's all I saw. But if that's what I saw. He showed everyone I can't box, and even worse, I now don't do what I was good at before, which was be super aggressive and throw combinations. So but we'll see. How would you see him winning?
So what do you think was wrong in his fight plan, in his fight game before, when he was fighting as you've just described? What do you think he needed to develop?
Yeah, no, that's a good point, because straight away I would then say what he did need to develop was, be comfortable with the jab and stuff like that. But I say that, but then again, it kind of comes back to that whole AJ argument. Do you change the nature of a fighter? Because Eubank is not a good technical boxer, and he never was.
It worked to great effect in Rocky 3. Completely.
Well, that's a trainer, AJ needs to get. But my point is you can improve elements of a fighter, make Eubank better boxer or whatever to a certain degree. But ultimately, he's never going to be a very good technical boxer. What he was good at and what he could continue to improve on and work his game plan around was, throwing those powerful punches, outworking people and getting stoppages, which was what he was doing, which I feel they're trying to move away from. But I do get what you're trying to say, is that obviously you would, try and resort to improving on what you're bad at. But
I don't know. I think you just go all in on what you're good at.
Yeah.
And I think that's what.
And then it's all then about the matchmaking. Then it's all about the matchmaking, isn't it? You find out what you're good at, and then
you like in any kind of combat, you want to fight the fight that you choose to fight. You want to choose the ground that you fight on. In the same way, if you're good at a particular thing, you want to make sure that the fight is dictated by your strength, not by you're just trying to disguise your weakness, aren't you? You're trying to hide that and step forward with your strength. So I think that's a better strategy in most areas of life.
I think Eubank was channeling his inner Sun Tzu. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. I think he took that to literally.
Let's talk about there's two more names that I want to cover before we wrap this up.
Susanna
the
Marshall.
Other one is Conor Benn. Joe, what do you make about potentially seeing that fight? Do you
It's ridiculous. He's too small, but I'd love to see it with the build up with the dads and everything. It would do.
Dad's on the undercard. Dad's on the undercard.
Yeah.
What's that film? Is it Football Factory, where the two dads are on either side of the pitch?
Yeah.
With Millwall, Chelsea juniors.
Yeah.
Like that.
So I think that's a bit of a Kell Brook Khan, isn't it? It's always going to be there, and I think they're probably going to do it when they.
It'd be very silly of Conor Benn. It'd be very silly of Conor Benn. He's got a good little career going for himself there. I wouldn't throw it away for one pay-per-view event.
But talking
for a gimmick as well.
It's a gimmick. For a gimmick. It's a Rocky. It's like in Creed where he says you got to keep the name, that sort of shit.
Yeah.
You know, what I was quite surprised about with the whole Eubank Conor Benn is when they put that forward to Eubank, I just assumed Eubank will be like, "You having a laugh? Like he's 2 weight divisions below me. He's a novice fighter. He's never won a world title. Like, I fought a super middleweight. This guy's at welterweight. But he actually seemed quite receptive to it.
Yeah.
I just thought to dismiss it. If I was him, if I was in issues, I'd be like, "You're having a laugh." But
to be fair, I think he's probably thinking in the back of his mind, he knows he wouldn't make that fight next, but he's like, I'm probably doing myself some favors by planting a seed here and showing, you're going to slag me off, I'll give it back. And then you've got a bit of a story brewing.
It's the talk that people want to hear as well, isn't it? They want to rekindle.
That's what it is all coming about. A lot of
all of that from the past. Yeah.
That is a huge side now of the boxing. We've even spoken about it. We're more excited about the press conference and the gloves are off of White than the actual fight. Like I genuinely I can say that.
Definitely.
Like,
there'll be more fire. There'll be more fireworks at the press conference.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So all right, and the final name I want to bring out is Special K Kell Brook. Now, there's speculations. Don't laugh. He's a serious middleweight, all right? He's a serious middleweight.
Definitely.
Yeah. He's done it before. He gave Golovkin some problems in those first 4 rounds.
He's got no
Remember?
eyes. I think he's got no eyes now, but he's solid fighter. Yeah, definitely.
Well, there is talks that if he
literally got his face caved in, he wants to fight again. He literally got his to the point where I don't even think he can open his own eyes. I think they're literally held open by something. Both of them.
Well, yeah.
Poor bastard. I'm not taking a
There
piss. I
are-
really feel sorry for him.
Yeah, but there are talks that if he beats Amir Khan, and they don't do a rematch or whatever, that he would move up or fight at a bit of a catchweight with Eubank, which I could see actually happening. Because first of all, they're both under Sky, so they're both on the same boxing promotion.
Yeah.
Kell Brook's a big name. Eubank would see him and be like, "Yeah, I could have you," and have a big name on my resume. It'd do good numbers in the UK. I think it's plausible.
Although my money is still on Khan, I think that Kell Brook he's still busy, right? He last fought in 2020, not that long ago. Whereas
he fought. Was his
Khan's last
fight
fight is a long time ago. So I think that Kell Brook, if Amir Khan wins, then nothing happens, right? He just wins the fight. If Kell Brook does, I think it resets where it means that it can have a fight like the one you're describing. It opens doors for him.
Yeah, and I think what's quite interesting about Kell Brook and Amir Khan, I know they've had some really naughty knockouts, but they're the same age as Terence Crawford. No one's going around saying.
I think they're both exactly the same age as each other as well, aren't they? They're like, how old are they?
35.
Can't be 35. Is it as old as that? I didn't realize it was as old as that.
Well, Golovkin's 52, mate.
Yeah, and that's what it says on his passport, let alone how old he actually is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Eubank's 32 now. It's funny, you talk about him as a prime fighter, but you'll start to see the decline pretty quickly. As Johan will tell you. Once you
you start putting Reeves like that on your door, and
you
start getting
Is that to stop you having nightmares?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Need a bit of softness in my life.
All right, to wrap this podcast up now, I'm going to go round to all of you, and I want you to tell me out of 10 what you rated Eubanks' performance, and then with one name who you want to see him fight next, and then we'll wrap it up. Jim, if you go first, let me get your rating and who you want to see next.
7, and it's got to be kind of BENN. I just want to see it. I just got to see it.
Joey, let me hear what you got to say.
I'll say 7 as well, and I want to see the Billy Joe rematch in the UK.
Good shout.
That's me.
Yeah,
I'm going for a 6, and the fight I really want to see is Savannah Marshall
versus just anyone. Should beat Savannah
anyone.
Marshall, Eubank. I'm going to go.
Laughing, mate.
Yeah, I'm going to go 6.5. And I want to see. 6.5 It's not
as bad as my reef, that is, mate.
And I want to see.
What is it? Pelican. You want a pelican?
And I want to see Billy Joe Saunders, like Joe, in a big stadium in the UK. I think that'd be wicked.
Naked. You want to see Billy Joe Saunders naked?
What did you say, Jan?
Very, very, very soft tonight. Very soft.
Anyway, right. Let's wrap that up there. Thank you guys very much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed. Please like and subscribe. Please drop a comment about what you thought about Eubanks' performance, and we will be back next week, and we'll be talking about Amir Khan versus Kell Brook, the big one. Would you all like to say goodbye now? Give a little wave
everyone.
Goodbye.
See you all later.
Everyone, thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed.
Good night.
Very nice, Jimmy.